Everybody, Jim and Roth here at CinemaCon in Las Vegas. Vegas, baby. And today, Christopher Nolan was doing a Q&A, and he was kind of the guest of honor at a banquet lunch.
Right, about the work of Christopher Nolan.
But the filmography, the career of this man. But a lot of the discussion was about Interstellar, his upcoming science fiction film.
They were probing for details. Every single time he kept saying, I don't want to say too much.
He wouldn't give up the goods on much of the plot, but there were a few kernels of information, some nuggets. We got Christopher Nolan's nuggets today, and basically, he did allude to Star Wars a few times. Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah, he was talking about. He sort of referenced Star Wars from his childhood. They talked about sort of seminal moments in his life and films that he saw, seminal films that he saw, things like that. And he talked about watching Star Wars multiple times, and then because all things space were welcome after that, he watched also 2001 several times in the theater, though he admitted he didn't really understand it. He was about 9. And then when he was talking about the tone for Interstellar, he said it's hearkening back to an earlier period of time. Yeah. And he jokingly said, they asked him if, when you look back at your Super 8 films that you made as a child, do you see the filmmaker that you are now? And he said, not really. They look like Star Wars ripoffs, but you may see some of that in Interstellar as well. So he, in a few different ways, sort of alluded to the idea that at least that era, and if not Star Wars in a bit, probably of 2001.
And I'm thinking, too, even though he didn't mention this film, but if he's talking about films of that era, I would imagine maybe Close Encounters, too, because the idea, he did say that he cast McConaughey because he wanted this sort of all-American everyman. And, to me, I think of Spielberg movies of that time, like the way Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss in those mid-'70s movies.
Yeah, I think that the idea of those films were about taking someone who feels like a very relatable or ordinary person through an extraordinary set of circumstances. And that's sort of what he's doing with this film as well. So I think that you can expect some of that tone, and he said he wanted to create a very universal feel. That wasn't a family film in the sense of being for children.
But he also, though, he did say some interesting things about, because we know that, as much as there's going to be CGI in this movie, he did talk about shooting on location and practical effects. Tell him about a little bit about, the sets and what he had to say about that environment that he created for his actors.
Yeah, again, he was a little reticent to get into too much detail, but, as we know, Christopher Nolan creates extraordinary practical effects sequences, like that hallway sequence in Inception. Yeah. In this case, the one thing that he did mention, he said there was a big emphasis on that. Of course, there were heavy CGI effects because it is about traveling through wormholes to different worlds.
He did confirm it is about wormholes, and it wasn't being coy about that. Well, he was, but he did say it was wormholes.
Right. It is about interstellar space travel. It's about traveling through wormholes to places that you could not get to.
That would take years and years. It would be beyond human lifespan, which I think is probably explaining why McConaughey is crying when he's driving away in his truck in the trailer. He's probably never going to see anybody he loves again. But to get back to the sets,
they built a full-scale spaceship, basically, and then they built an environment outside of the spaceship on an elaborate set, and that allowed them to shoot sort of documentary style, as if the actors really were.
And he did say the word like a documentary, that he wanted it to be, so the alien world will be rebuilt. It's not going to be like, on a lot of movies where there's just a green screen background or whatever. So that was a very interesting approach. He also, though, he did bring up that as much as he wouldn't say much about the plot, he did say that, that this would be a film different from his other movies.
Yeah, it's funny because he both likened it to some of his other films in the sense of he likened it to Inception and The Dark Knight, in the sense of having kind of fantastical environments, but he did emphasize that he wanted to add a sense of realism and tactile realism to those environments.
Yeah.
But he said it was unlike his other films in that it was, again, hearkening back to this other era of filmmaking, so this is a kind of different tone for him. I'm really curious, and I agree with you. I think that what we're going to see is that sort of close encounters and epic.
I have a crazy theory. Okay, if
this is happening right now.
I have nothing to back this up, just me being me. But if Inception was basically his dreamscape, I wonder if Interstellar is going to be like his version of the Black Hole, the Disney movie. Giant ship, this crew, and I don't know. It's just me being me. Anyways, we did, we basically learned about these different elements of Interstellar. Is there anything else about the film that we're leaving out? He was very coy. He wouldn't say much.
He was coy. I mean, those are sort of the details that we can tease right now.
Yeah.
I hope that we'll be seeing more from it.
He did not show new footage. He didn't. It was just this is what we learned from him, just him speaking. The only thing they've shown is the trailer.
Right, and they are finishing the first edit of the first cut right now, so hopefully we'll have more for you guys soon to keep it locked.
Keep it locked here to IGN for everything about Interstellar, CinemaCon, and more wackiness between me and this one here. So thanks for watching.